Okay, so thank you everyone for coming out. We're so glad that you guys made the trip, and I know I appreciate it and Sarah appreciates it. And my name is Linda. I'm the practice administrator for Colon and Rectal Associates. And Sarah is our health coach, and she's been doing this for 20 years now and taking care of healing of the diseases and issues that she's had within her family, friends, and that put her on the path to getting her certification as a health coach. So we've been doing these videos now for about 8 months,
Yeah.
I guess. So anyhow, it can be a humorous topic. I know for my grandkids, it's a highly humorous topic, but it's also a serious one because it's one of sometimes the first indications of how we're doing from a health standpoint. So Sarah is with us today to talk about poop, and so I'll send it over to you. But before I do that, I want to say that this is purely for information because although Sarah's a health coach, she may not be your health coach. So always check with your doctor if you have any questions or if you want to contact Sarah. And then if you have questions as we go through, if you want to make notes, and then she'll answer questions at the end. So we'll go from there. And again, the only ones on video were us. So you're safe from being on a poop talk presentation. And now I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you everyone for coming. So I thought we start by talking about what normal poop looks like. I know that's a tough discussion, not in my household. We talk poop all the time, but so what does a normal poop look like? It should be brown. It should be log shaped. You shouldn't push to get it out. You shouldn't strain yourself. You shouldn't see any undigested food in your stool. It should sink and not float. The color should be brown. And unless you're eating a lot of vegetables, a lot of greens, then it can be green. If you're eating beets, it can be red. But if you're not eating any of those things, the color should be brown. Now, if it's red, green, white, yellow, you should consult your doctor, your physician. And then the perfect poop is when you wipe, there is nothing on the toilet paper. That's tough to accomplish, but that's when you know you've got, the perfect poop. Now, then the question becomes, how do you get the perfect poop? What's responsible for having a good bowel movement? And there are a lot of factors that contribute, but today we're gonna cover the microbiome and how microbiome affects your poop, So I'm not sure how familiar everyone here is with the microbiome, so I'm just gonna touch on it very lightly. We have a lot of bacteria in our body, everywhere in our body, but for the purpose of tonight's discussion, I'm gonna focus on the bacteria in our gut. We have between 500 to 1,000 different species of bacteria in our gut, good bacteria and bad bacteria. About 90% of those are between 30 to 40 different strains. However, if you live in Africa in an indigenous tribe, your diversity is a lot higher than if you're on a standard American diet. So they've tested this before. A scientist by the name of Dennis Burkitt, and I think that was the doctor that proved the relationship between high fiber diet and the reduction of colon cancer cases. He lived in Africa for a while amongst different tribes, and he measured the poop of the member of that tribe. That's quite a job to have. And the poop was about 2 pounds. And then when the member of those tribes moved to United Kingdom, their poop weighed about 3 to 4 ounces. So we know that your diet, your lifestyle, your stress level, your sleep, your exposure to sunlight, your exposure to toxin, those all affect your microbiome. And so do you want to cover diet, how diet affects our microbiome, or?
Yeah, no, I think that would be really good because I know it's one of those things that we can control.
Yeah.
Whereas there are other things that happen in our microbiome that we can't.
That's right.
And, or that happened at birth, or sometimes where we live, we can't change where we live. So yes, definitely, I think with that. And then I want to back up just a little bit because when you were talking about like the shape and the size, I know that there are things that go around it, like if you have pain, if you have the undigested food, but does that, that's also indicative. So even if you have one that you say, like I go every day and it looks like it's normal, if you have pain with it, that's still something to look at, correct?
Yes, that's, yeah, but you need to contact your doctor if it's painful. It could be a fissure, it could be hemorrhoid. So that's, and thank you for bringing that up because it's important that you have a bowel movement at least once a day, at least. Preferably 2 or 3 times a day. Now, I know that a lot of websites says what's normal for you. It's normal. Like if you have bowel movement every 3 days, if that's normal for you, that's your normal pattern, but that's not optimal for your health because that's the way that your toxin exit your body. So there are 4 ways that you can get rid of toxins. One is through your poop, pee, sweating, and breath. So those are how you get rid of toxins. So if you're not pooping every day, especially for women, it's imperative that you go to the bathroom every day because the estrogen is metabolized in your liver. And then the second part, the phase 2, estrogen is excreted through your bowel movement. If you don't go to the bathroom, that estrogen gets recirculated and it becomes more toxic and it can land in your breast or cause breast cancer. So it's very, very important that you get rid of the toxins daily. And if you're not going to the bathroom every day, you need to look for a root cause. Why aren't you going to the bathroom every day? Is your microbiome imbalanced? So it's very, very important. That's if you take one thing away from tonight is that you have to have a bowel movement every day, at least once a day.
I did not know that about the estrogen.
Yes.
That's very interesting.
And I've got a friend that she, about 10 years ago, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I remember the problem, she wasn't a client of mine, but I remember she would go to the bathroom once a week and her doctor, and she was a physician, and her doctor had told her that that's normal for you. It's like if you've always gone to the bathroom once a week, that's your normal. But in retrospect, I've never discussed it with her, but I wonder if that contributed to her toxin load, you know?
Absolutely, or the healing process afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so that's really important to go. And then as far as the things that influence your gut biome, so babies that are born via C-section, they don't have as good of a microbiome as babies that are born vaginally. And also, if you breastfeed, the babies can have better gut microbiome than bottle feed. But we're learning that, you know.
Yeah, in retrospect, because I know back when I was born, women were told not to breastfeed. So I went down the birth canal, but I didn't get breast milk.
Yeah.
My grandkids were cesarean, but they got breast milk.
Yeah.
But we can still, even though optimally we would have both, but we can still have a healthy biome now with strong immunity by doing lifestyle changes and diet and things
Absolutely, because your microbiome can turn over as little as every 48 hours. So you can change your microbiome. And I have seen that. The reason that I got into this field to begin with was because my son was very sick about 23 years ago. He was very sick. He had up to 28 bouts of diarrhea a day. And my son has autism, so it was nonverbal. And he had multiple colonoscopies and endoscopies, food sensitivity testing, any test you can think about, he had. And the doctors didn't know what to do with him. And I started, so I went to his doctor and I said, what about his diet? Can we do something with his diet? And his doctor told me that it was crazy. And I'm like, what about his microbiome? Microbiome wasn't as big of a thing as it is now. And his doctor, his surgeon, down at Children's, thought that I was crazy for suggesting that. So I discharged him. I listened to my gut. I discharged him and I worked on his diet. And within a day or two, he started feeling better. And within 6 months, like he hasn't even had a cold since then, not even a cold. But he was sick for 3-4 years and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. Multiple colonoscopies and endoscopies. So diet makes a huge difference. And that's why I become so passionate about helping people deal with this, empower them to take charge of their own health, to become the CEO of their own health. There's so much that we can do, and I just want people to know that and be empowered by it, you know?
Yeah. So with the diet, and then what about like the food sensitivities? Because
yes, so a lot of my clients come to me and they say that we can eat almonds and we can eat avocado and we can eat tomatoes and we can eat cucumbers. They're all random things all over that they can eat. And I always tell them there is a difference between true allergies and food sensitivity. True allergies, it's like when you eat peanuts and you go into shock. But food sensitivities are due to imbalance of your microbiome. So when you fix your gut, you can get rid of a lot of those food sensitivities. And when we start cleaning their gut, they can start eating more food. So my whole point is, or I'm passionate about making people's gut resilient and not make their diet restrictive. Like avocado is a really good, it's good for you. So, and it's delicious. So you should be able to eat avocado. So yeah, so there is a huge difference between sensitivity. So when there is sensitivity, always don't eliminate the food. Think to yourself, why can I digest this food? What is it with my microbiome? What is it in my body that's not allowing me to digest the food rather than eliminating it? So I think that makes a huge difference. Okay. Yeah, cleaning up your gut.
And people will know if they're sensitive to it because you'll have gas or bloating, or you'll see undigested food.
Yeah.
That goes all the way through.
Or you can get a rash every time you eat it. You can get a rash, or you can, like, your tongue can swell up, or your body tells you that your body is not doing well. But after cleaning your gut more often than not, you can start reintroducing it. With a lot of my clients, I put them on a total elimination diet, which I eliminate everything that can be inflammatory to the body, and then I reintroduce it systematically, one at a time. And that way, if your body reacts to it, you know that it's a true allergy and true sensitivity. But if you don't react to it, you're like, okay, the body just needed a break. You just needed to heal your gut.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe we should discuss what affects your gut microbiome. Mm-hmm. Maybe we should talk about diet, right? Because that's what I'm
Yes, yeah. And then we can move into like, are the pre, pro, and postbiotics,
Yeah, yes,
are they
yes.
necessary permanently for a period of time?
Yes. So with diet, so what affects the gut microbiome? So let's talk about the foods that affects the microbiome negatively. Number one is sugar. And I
Which is very unfortunate.
yeah, so sugar kills your good bacteria. Bad bacteria live on sugar. So if you can eliminate sugar from your diet, that helps your gut microbiome a lot. And sugar comes in a lot of different forms. So when you look on the back of like a box of cookies, just make sure that you know every ingredient that is a word for sugar. So sugar is really bad. Anything that's ultra processed, anything that comes in a box and has like 15 or 20 ingredients, put it back. They have a lot of additives. Additives are bad for your gut microbiome. We were talking about that yesterday. There is over 1,000 ingredients in food that we use in the US, in the supermarkets. They're allowed, but anywhere in Europe, they're banned. So they can't even, it's poison to them. So they've completely banned over 1,000 ingredients that we use daily. So we're not resilient to that. It doesn't kill the Europeans and not us. It's just that they have a much better regulation when it comes to food. So make sure that if you're buying cookies or if you're buying bread, that you know every ingredient in the back of the box. Like a loaf of bread should not have 20 ingredients. It just shouldn't. You know, we've all made breads. You don't need that many ingredients to make bread. So be conscious of that. Other things that are bad are additives. I know you're very, very
We try to be really careful in the additives, and with looking at the Bristol chart, some of those additives can cause like diarrhea or constipation, or so you may think you're allergic to a food, but you could be allergic to one of the additives that's in the food that you're eating.
yeah.
So, and that makes it hard to tell because you stop eating it and you feel better, but it's like which of those ingredients were the ones that you were sensitive to.
Yeah, like you were saying, one time you went to supermarket and you were buying cheese and it had,
Oh yeah, the shredded cheese versus a block of cheese. The shredded cheese had more stuff in it.
yeah, and then you said
So
some dye or something, and
yeah, the yellow, if you get cheddar cheese and it's yellow, there's a really good chance that that's got the dye, whereas the white cheddar does not have
had
the
the
dye.
dye. Yeah, so be conscious of all those things when you buy. Just make sure to read the ingredients. Make sure to you know what the ingredient is. Rule of thumb: if you don't have it in your kitchen, you shouldn't see it on a box. Don't eat it. If you don't have it in the kitchen, don't buy that. So now, what are the good things for the gut microbiome? I'm just so passionate about this. Okay, so fiber. I love it so much, I even wear it. So it's just fiber, fiber, fiber. It's good for your gut microbiome. The only caveat to that is if you're having problems with your gut already, if you get a lot of bloating, if you have a lot of gas, fiber may not be good for you at that point. So you have to clean up your gut and then introduce fiber very slowly, because fiber can cause bloating and gas if your microbiome is not balanced.
And that's what we had talked about the other day as well, because one of the things is, I remember when I very first started working with Dr. Hash, one of our patients wanted to know, should it float or should it sink? And I didn't know the answer to that at the time. But one of the things I've learned since then, that sometimes even with it floating, it could just be that you eat too much fat, but it could be that there's gas and that there's gas making it float.
Yeah.
So it could be just a reaction again.
Yeah. But fiber is very important. Your gut, fiber is, you're not eating it for you, you're eating it for your gut microbiome. Your body is not able to digest fiber. So fiber goes all the way through your small intestine and it gets into your large intestine where your gut microbiome can actually feed on it. So fiber, it's one of those really important things. Now, if you have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth or SIBO, which causes bloating, obviously you don't want to start with a lot of fiber. If you have IBS, you don't want to start with a lot of fiber. You have to do it systematically and very slowly. But fiber, it's just life, and it makes you go every day. The other thing that's really good for your gut microbiome, it's color. So you've probably heard eat the rainbow. So you have to include color into your diet. Every color is important. With my clients that are not used to eating colors, I tell them to dedicate a day of the week to a certain color. Like on Mondays, eat anything that you can see it's red, like watermelon, raspberries, tomatoes, red apple. So just focus on one color at a time if you're not used to eating colors. But color causes diversity. The fruits and vegetables are colorful because they have their bioactive ingredient gives them that color. And that bioactive ingredient is what helps your microbiome, your gut microbiome, your mitochondria, which is what gives you energy. So those two things are things that you need to add to your diet on a daily basis. The third thing is prebiotics. I'm not sure if you know about prebiotics, but prebiotics they have small molecular weight. They're things like inulin or oligosaccharides. They have small molecular weight, but they're highly complex. So, for example, when you eat bread, your blood sugar goes right up because your body digests it very quickly and it causes a spike in your blood sugar. When you eat a prebiotic food, because of the complexity of the carbon bonds in the glucose and the fructose monomer, that your blood sugar, your body can't digest it. So it goes through you, it gets to your large intestine, and then the bacteria can feed on it. And so you're eating for the bacteria. And some of the prebiotic foods are garlic, onions, my favorite is the peel on carrots.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought were bananas?
Bananas, yes, yeah. Yes, green bananas are a good prebiotic food. So they're different from fiber because fiber feeds all kind of bacteria, all the good bacteria in your gut, whereas prebiotic feeds a smaller number of bacteria, but highly specialized bacteria. So you need them both. It's hard. It's completely doable to get enough fiber and prebiotic daily. And I do eat a lot of fiber, so I don't need to supplement with that. But I personally supplement with prebiotic, but I know other members of my family supplement with both. But my fiber, I eat enough fiber, more than enough fiber, but it's something that people can supplement with.
And one of the things that I can't help but notice, because there's so much out there now about there are goji berries, and not everyone even knows what quinoa is because it's not part of like what we grew up with. But everything that you're talking about, like that has fiber and prebiotics, it's a recognizable food that we've had all of our lives.
Yes.
It isn't like a new superfood or you have to go out and shop oddly in order to get the fiber that you need.
And it's good to get a variety of fibers. So fruits and vegetables are great, but so is quinoa, so is hemp seed, flax seeds, chia seeds. Those are great source of fiber. So it's good to get about between 25 to 30 grams of fiber daily, at least. Mm-hmm. So that's what recommended in America, but like in Africa and tribes, they get up to 100 grams of fiber a day. Maybe that's why their poop weighs 2 pounds. But
that's a lot of eating of fiber.
Yes, but I attended a webinar with this scientist who lived in this tribe, Hadza tribe, right now in Africa. He did it actually a couple of years back. And he lived with them for about 2-3 months. And it's a hunter and gatherer tribe. They still live the way hunters and gatherers did, hundreds of years ago. And he said that there was no diabetes, there was no cancer, they didn't even have a word for depression, they didn't know what anxiety was. So these are all modern day diseases that are caused by our diet. So if we clean up our diet, we can clean up a lot of, we can reduce our risk of getting sick or any of those disorders.
So, and once we do that, like if we move on to movement, so that helps at the process as well too, correct?
Yes.
Movement massages our internal organs, including our colon, and so even just taking a walk.
Absolutely. Yeah, movement doesn't have to be spending an hour in the gym every day. Who has time to do that? Not everybody can do that, but start somewhere. So if you're sedentary, if you're sitting, if your job requires you to sit all the time, move 5 minutes every hour, just start from there. Any kind of movement would help your gut microbiome. Getting exposed to the sun. Your microbiome has a circadian rhythm, just like we do. So they need to be exposed to the sun. You need to get in the sun. I always tell my clients, sky before screen. So what we tend to do first thing in the morning is to look up our phone and see if you have any messages, any emails overnight. So make sure you're not doing that. Make sure that you're not exposing your eyes to your phone before seeing the natural light, before going outside. So our gut microbiome needs that. Something else that our gut microbiome needs, it's good sleep, quality sleep, which we all know it's much harder as you age.
It's easy to say, it's harder to accomplish.
Yeah, and you can reset your sleep the minute you wake up. So that's how your sleep is reset. So the minute you wake up, if you're expose your eyes to natural light, you're giving your body that cue to start making cortisol, and melatonin goes down, your sleeping hormone. And then at nighttime, if you can start dimming the light, like in my bedroom, I only use amber color light. It looks like a brothel. But because your eyes, you don't want to have, and I always wear, like in the afternoon towards the evening, I always wear blue blocking glasses just to make sure to give my body that cue that it's getting bedtime, get ready for nighttime. So sleep is really important for your gut microbiome and your brain development, because when you sleep is when your lymphatic system, how we have a lymphatic system in our body, we have a system in our brain called lymphatic system. And that only works at nighttime when you're asleep. It flushes out toxins when you're asleep. Your liver only works when you're asleep. So it's just important for your overall health to get quality sleep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, the medications that we take and the antibiotics, because some of those medications are sleep medications.
Yeah.
So, does that affect the kind of sleep that we get, and does that affect the gut?
Yeah. So if you're taking medication like Ambien or I'm not sure some of the other Lunesta, maybe some of the other. So what it does, you don't go into natural deep sleep and natural or REM sleep. So you're sleeping, but it's not the stage 3 and 4 of sleep that you need, where all the good things happen. So it affects your sleep and it affects your gut biome. As far as antibiotics, I mean, thank God for antibiotics. We need them because after a surgery, can you imagine not having antibiotics? But it's been overprescribed, it's overused. So with my clients that need to have surgery, I always make sure to put them on certain kind of probiotics like Saccharomyces boulardii, and just to make sure.
I don't even know what you just said.
It's a type of a probacteria that's made out of fungus. So your antibiotic is resistant to it, but it can help your microbiome while you're going through the treatment. So your gut bacteria wouldn't be as disturbed, and then you can add other probiotics to make sure, because I was reading and study that clindamycin, 1 gram of clindamycin can disturb your gut microbiome for up to 2 years. 1 gram of clindamycin. So it's very important that when you're taking your antibiotic, because sometimes you just have to take antibiotics after post-surgery, when you're taking antibiotics, to make sure to attend to your bacteria and not kill, because antibiotics kill both good bacteria and the bad bacteria, and it causes dysbiosis. So you just need to make sure that you're taking care of your gut during that time, so you won't,
try to keep it as balanced as possible while you're on it.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So aging, I don't know what we can do with that. Let's just work on diet, stress, and sleep, and geography. I mean,
well, we've been alive long enough to start realizing that we aren't the same as we always have been.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes it feels like you wake up one day and suddenly something has changed.
Yes.
Other times it's a little more gradual.
Yeah.
But it's, I think we recognize that as we are aging, that things are changing. So how do we adapt to that? How do we?
Well, with your diet, with your stress management, you just need to make sure you're proactive. The biggest thing you have control over is probably your diet and your sleep. With your stress management, you need to be proactive. I teach my client different breathing techniques, meditation, whatever that, floats your boat. Just make sure that you're doing more of things that brings you joy, makes you happy. And sometimes it's unavoidable, like coming here, getting stuck in traffic, but it becomes an issue when it becomes chronic.
Okay.
We've discussed it before. Our ancestors, they probably would encounter a tiger and they would run away from the tiger, and then they were safe and they wouldn't have to worry. So the stress level would go up and it would come down. The problem with today's life is that the stress level goes up, but it stays up from the moment you're up. From the moment you turn the TV on, with the news, with your phone, you're bombarded with information. Yeah. So your nervous system, your cortisol level doesn't have a chance to come down. So that's the issue, because stress is actually good for your body. What they say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's actually called hormesis. A little bit of stress on the body is a good thing. The problem is when it becomes chronic and you don't mitigate it with breathing techniques, with meditation, when you're in the community with friends, so that's when it becomes an issue.
Okay.
So, but so those are some of the things that can affect the gut microbiome. The most important thing is your diet. And something else that affects the gut microbiome, they did a study a couple of years ago on 30,000 people, and the people who had the best gut microbiome, they had at least 30 different plant foods during the week. Now, that's not hard to take, because that includes fruits and vegetables, teas like green tea, white tea, black tea. That includes all the spices like turmeric, cinnamon, cumin. So it's not hard to take. That includes beans, seeds, nuts. So just make sure that you're eating more food that grows on the ground, that's not produced in factory. And then the other thing was that they had at least 5 serving of fermented food. So like kimchi, sauerkraut, fermented beets. Now, when you look for fermented foods, make sure that it's fermented in just water and salt. So if pickles are fermented in vinegar, that doesn't do much for your gut microbiome. It just needs to be fermented in water and salt. Yeah.
Okay, and I love pickles, and I know pickles done in vinegar are so tasty. And there is a subtle difference if you get a fermented pickle.
Yeah.
But your sauerkraut is also really good when it's fermented, and
yeah.
So
those are all the things that would benefit, that could help your gut microbiome.
Yeah, but you also like if somebody's health isn't optimal, or they could be having issues where doing those 5 servings of
it's not a good idea. So if you're struggling with GI issues such as IBS or SIBO, SIBO stands for small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. It's where you feel bloated, gassy, you could have either diarrhea or constipation. You cannot eat fermented food, because you do not want to feed the bacteria that are in your small intestine. Because, okay, so let me go back. The majority of the bacteria in your gut is housed in your large intestine. Your small intestine should be pretty sterile, maybe a little bit of bacteria, but pretty sterile. So you shouldn't have any bacteria in your small intestine. When you get a lot of bloating, gas, that means there is something going on in your small intestine. I have a client that has been with me for a long time, on and off. He called me, it's a personal story, but he called me a couple of months ago, and he said that he's not able to eat fiber, that he's not able to stick with his diet. Now, this client is a physician himself, and I said, what's going on? And he said he wasn't sure. I said, do you have gas, bloating? He said, yes. I said, I think you have SIBO. Because I knew him so well, I didn't feel like he needed to do the testing to figure out. So I said, he's a physician, so I wanted his own input. I'm like, how do you want to deal with it? Do you want to go on antibiotic? Because most physicians, when you have SIBO, they put you on antibiotics. And he said, no, because I don't want to disturb my gut microbiome. What are some of the other ways of dealing with that? And I said, okay, so we can possibly put you on a certain diet, and then introduce competing bacteria that are good bacteria in your small intestine, and just start feeding those bacteria. And eventually we can get the balance back. Now, it's not as quick as getting antibiotic and feeling better, but the damage obviously is much less. So it took him about 8 weeks. He's completely fine. He said that I just talked to him this morning. He said 90% of his symptoms are gone. He's not fatigued. And we're able to introduce fiber back into his diet, and he's able to eat it. So there are other ways of treating SIBO and IBS. It doesn't always, my favorite way is not always. Sometimes you have to introduce antibiotics, but if you get to it quicker, you can introduce
And you don't
competing
mind the
bacteria.
patience, like,
Yes.
and sometimes you have time for that because in our lifestyles too, it becomes somewhat limiting sometimes. But yeah, being able to take the time and then see that progression also, I would think would help us because then we would know how our body's reacting to other foods that we're introducing and kind of how to heal it as it goes along. Or the next time it happens, you're more aware and you can stop it faster.
Exactly. With my clients, I always think about the long-term consequence of what we're doing.
Okay.
To me, introducing competing bacteria and making sure that the gut is not out of balance will benefit the patient. Obviously, they always have to check with their doctors, but he was a doctor, so he checked with himself and he's like, okay, we're okay with that. We can do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then, of course, once that's healthy, then when we get back to the bowel movement, then that's what it should be as well. And your frequency should go up to what it should be.
Yes.
And everything should start feeling more balanced.
Balance. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
But given that, because I know one of the things that we had, that we talked about with the gut biome is that when it is way, way out of balance, then what's on the next page is some of the diseases that have increased. And when they measure it back, like as our food sources changed or as the American diet changed and became more processed food, we started seeing more of this. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's our diet that has changed. It's the number of toxin we're introduced to every day on a daily basis: glyphosate, pesticides, herbicides, all those. So those all can contribute to the rise, because our genes haven't changed since the 1990s, you know?
Yeah.
So you know that it's not a genetic issues. So then it leaves the problem to lifestyle issues. Our genes are like guns, you know? But what pulls the trigger is our diet and lifestyle. So we just always have to keep that in mind, that you're not your genes. Before the 1990s, 1980s, we thought that genes were responsible, but now we know that genes are probably only responsible for anywhere 10 to 20% of the diseases you end up with. Even Alzheimer's now. The first book came out of survivors of Alzheimer's, the people who changed their diet completely, their lifestyle completely, and they're Alzheimer free. So it's just really, really important what you put in your body, what you put on your body, the lotions that you put on your body, the shampoo that you put on your hair. As long as you can stay clean, because anything that you put on your body gets absorbed. So just like when you're putting a certain lotion on your body, think to yourself, would I eat this? If you're not eating it, don't put it on your body. So it's, but those things have changed. Now we have a lot more toxins that have introduced to our beauty products, to our daily stuff. So, you know, that can cause an issue. Oh, and having said that, let me just give you a little tip. Back to diet, I forgot to cover. It's always, I always recommend organic. I always recommend my clients to go organic, but organic is not always accessible or not always the route that you can take. So in that case, the environmental working group, and we've got the website on the handout, the environmental working group puts two lists out every year, the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. So the Dirty Dozen are the fruits and vegetables that have the highest number of pesticides. So if you can make sure that you get the Dirty Dozen organic, that would help a lot. And then the Clean 15, things like avocado or banana or oranges, things that you can peel, you don't have to get organic. But if like berries, peaches, celeries, things like that, you have to get organic. What if organic is not accessible when it comes to those foods? You can still remove up to 80% of the pesticides. So what you do is use one a cup of vinegar and 3 cups of water, mix it, and then soak the vegetables for about 20 minutes, and then rinse them. That takes at about 80% of the pesticides. Or use 1 tablespoon of baking soda in a gallon of water and soak it for about 20 minutes, then rinse it. That can take care of the pesticide. So it's always important to get your fruits and vegetables in. Or if fresh fruits and vegetables is not accessible to you, get frozen ones. That's fine. Just make sure to look in the back of the bag and make sure that it comes from a country that has good regulation. Like, I always get my wild blueberries frozen in the winter, but I make sure to pick up the ones that come from Canada. So make sure that the country that the food is coming from, it's a country that's got good regulation on food. Try to avoid getting mixed berries frozen because they come from different sources. They may come from Canada and Serbia and China. And so there is a lot of transfer, there is a lot of processing. So try to get if you're getting frozen food, first see which country it's coming from. And secondly, make sure that it's single source. It's not coming from different countries. So always check the country in the back.
We have to check the freezer.
So just make sure to check the back.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah, that's something that's that's really important because some countries don't have
good same kind of oversight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so circling us all the way around then, coming back to the things that we can do or small changes that we can do now that can put us on the path to having a really healthy bowel movement in the way that we should and with the regularity that we should, and building that gut biome, getting those two things going are, I think on the second page, is there anything that you would add to this? Or?
Yeah, I like to talk about probiotics, and we talked a little bit about prebiotics. We know probiotics are the buzzword nowadays, like everything from candy in the store to lotion to toothpaste, everything has probiotic. But let's break it down. The World Health Organization and the prominent scientists in the world that work in the microbiome field, they define probiotic as live organisms that when administered in the right dosage, in adequate dosage, can confer benefit on the host, okay? So let's unpack this. And so you know what probiotic to get next time you're at the store. First, it's live organism. So in order for the bacteria to work, it has to be live when it gets to the site of action. What does that mean? It means that when you take it through mouth, it has to survive your salivary enzymes. When it goes down to your small intestine, to your stomach, it has to survive the harsh situation in the stomach, and it has to eventually go to your large intestine. So I was at the store the other day and I saw these candies with probiotic. Well, you know that probiotic is not, it's just marketing. It's not going to do anything for you because that bacteria is dead already. So it's not going to make it. It's not alive. So avoid anything like that. The second part of the statement is when administered in adequate dosage. So anything about half a billion, it's got marginal benefit. Probiotic, 500 million CFU, that's got marginal benefit. If it's between 2 to 3, that's great benefits. That's where you get the most benefit. Anything after 5 CFU, 5 billion CFU, there is no extra benefit. So when you go to the store and it says 200 billion CFU, that doesn't really mean anything. It's just look for the for the probiotics that have a lot of research on it. And the third part of the statement says that it needs to have shown in research that it's got health benefit. So I've got two websites down there. Linda put two websites down there, National Institute of Health.gov and PubMed.gov. So when you're buying a probiotic, just look on those websites and make sure that it does have the research that it claims to. Because in the US, we have zero regulation when it comes to probiotic. Now, in Europe, they can't even call things probiotic because it's a health claim. So they have a much bigger regulation on probiotic. But in the US, we can call anything probiotic. So just make sure that if you're taking a probiotic, it's the right probiotic for you. Now, my views on probiotic has changed. I'm a huge believer in probiotics. I eat a lot of fermented food, but just to give you an example, I'm gonna share a personal story. I was dealing with on July 1st, I started having this localized headache. It was sharp pain, localized headache, and it lasted for about, after a week, I started seeing my doctor in the third or fourth day. And then after 10 days, when it didn't go away, I saw a neurologist. I wanted to have an MRI done because it was very localized and it didn't make sense to me. And I had never had headache before that for the past 15 years. I had an MRI done. The MRI was normal. The neurologist said that she didn't know. She said we eliminated all the possibilities. I don't know. She said, well, why don't you take these pain medication and muscle relaxant and see how it goes? That wasn't good enough for me because I want to get to the root cause of the issue. Why am I having this headache? What is my body trying to communicate with me? What am I doing wrong? What am I not eating? So the headache, so I saw an acupuncturist. I saw a couple of other specialists in the holistic world. And then I noticed that as my headache wasn't getting better, my anxiety was going higher. And then the anxiety was leading to worse headaches. So it became a vicious cycle. So I did some research and I'm like, okay, I always go back to the gut. Whoever I treat, I always go back to the gut. And then I saw that this bacteria, Bifidolangum 1714, has great benefit. It targets the gut-brain axis. So I started taking 4 of those a day. And I'm so glad to say that it's been 8 days and I'm completely headache-free. Now, was it the probiotic? Was it the combination of the acupuncture? Who knows? I just know that I'm not going to stop taking that probiotic for a while. So I'm a huge believer in probiotics. It helps. Just make sure that you're not scammed into, because they're expensive. Supplements are expensive. Just make sure what you're getting, what you're paying for, it's actually what you're getting. And you can find that out by going to these websites and checking out the studies behind it, because good companies, they do studies behind their probiotics. And then something else that's a buzzword that you may or may not have heard about it, but you will in this coming year, because I see more and more of it outside, it's postbiotics. So postbiotics are the metabolites that your prebiotic, the bacteria in your stomach, in your gut make. So like you probably think fermented food is probiotic, but the fermented food is actually a postbiotic. It's a metabolite that the microbe during the fermentation has made. So postbiotic, before it was, the definition was that the metabolite after fermentation plus the dead bacteria that can benefit the host in a positive way. But right now they're changing the definition to a dead organism that can benefit the host. No, not all bacteria are good dead. That's what not all probiotics are good,
Right.
but certain bacteria, because of what there is on their outer membrane, they can help your gut health. So like I have clients that I put on butyrate and acetate, and because their body cannot produce the probiotic yet because of the health of their gut, but they do need that metabolite. So those are some terms that I think it's important for everyone to know. Prebiotic, probiotic, and postbiotic. Prebiotic is the food for the bacteria, probiotic is the bacteria, and postbiotic is the metabolite that the bacteria make during fermentation.
Okay. That's really interesting because it's almost like they're giving a new name to fermented food.
Yeah, exactly. And they're starting to call, some people call postbiotic ghost probiotic. So there is all these names floating around, but it's going to become more popular in the upcoming years, like how probiotic has become a household name. So, you know, postbiotic are going to be like that in the next couple of years.
Filtering out the marketing from the fact can be a bit of a challenge.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, is there anything else you'd like to add? We'll go to questions or...
Well, the supplements, like if you need supplements, that's something that there are certain supplements that's good for your gut, like zinc in a certain form, vitamin D, fish oil. Those are all good supplements to take, but you cannot add supplement your way out of a bad diet. So you always have to make sure to get the basics right before adding supplements. I personally take like about 15 supplements a day, but that's because I've dialed in everything else. And now I'm working on supplements and see what helps me, what doesn't, for my immunity, for aging, for all those. But you cannot, anybody that tells you, oh, just take this supplement and it's going to make you, all your problems go away, that's not true. You need to pay attention to the basic. You need to start with your diet, with your movement, lifestyle factors.
So don't take this and then go to McDonald's.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, it's the same sad answer that sugar is not good for us.
Yeah, and speaking of McDonald's, like McDonald's has a completely different formulation in Europe than they do here in the US. So you just have to, you're the only one that can look out for your own health. Don't count on the organization or
the food industry or...
Yes, the food industry is not looking out for you. So question the claim that's on the food, that's on the boxes all the time. Don't pay attention to the claim on the box. Turn the box over and look at the ingredients. That gives you a lot more information that's what's in front of the box.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we can take some questions if anybody...
Does anybody have any questions or
anything that you guys need to be...
I do. So when you talk about your clients, what do they come to you for? To help them plan a good diet program so that their gut will be in order? Is that how?
So do you want to repeat the question?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm going to repeat the question so that we'll have it
on the video.
Yes. So when you see a client, then are you seeing them? Are they coming to you specifically because they want to work on their gut biome, or are they having health issues and they're coming to you to see if you can help them? Did I get that right?
Yes.
So I work with a couple of functional medicine doctors in the area. They work kind of like I do. They look for the root causes. So if there is a functional medicine doctor, I get a lot of their clients that they know what to do. They just don't know how to implement it because it can be very overwhelming. So I help them. Then I have my own clients that they come to me with gut issues, with IBS, SIBO, ulcerative colitis, and then I've got that they want to know how to clean their gut, how to view it holistically. And then I have another set of clients that they just, everything is good, they just want to optimize it as to the best they can. Like I have this one client that just we're working on the kind of rosemary, and they like she's like very specific and she's done all the work, so she's become very specific. So there are different types of clients, but I always start with the gut before I go, because everything starts in the gut. When there is an issue, I'm telling you, my headache was related to the imbalance in my gut somewhere. So, but yeah, I always start in the gut. Yeah, you're welcome.
When you talked about SIBO and adding competing bacteria, would that be in a supplement form?
Yes. Yes, they're in supplement forms, and they're studied. It's a certain protocol in a supplement form, but I also help them with their diet. A lot of times with SIBO patients, they need to go on a low FODMAP diet, but it could be very personal with low FODMAP diet. Some clients, like they can't eat avocado. Other clients don't have a problem with it. So it's a combination of supplements and diet, but I want to take them to a place that they can start introducing fiber as soon as possible, because if you don't get enough fiber or prebiotic, you can starve out the bacteria in your large intestine. So that could have really awful consequences with a lot of the issues that we've discussed. So yeah, but there is like a certain protocol that I've got this client on, and yeah, you introduce, and a lot of people with SIBO, they may also, they may not know it, but they may also deal with small bacteria, a small fungus overgrowth, so SIFO. So it could be a combination. So I always treat both at the same time.
And how do you test for that? Or is there a test?
Yeah, you can test for SIBO. There is a test for SIBO. I think it's a 3-hour test that you can do. So it's either methane or hydrogen. They test for methane, hydrogen, or hydrogen sulfide to see, to see what your bacteria is producing, and then they can address that. But you can do the test, but a lot of times when you have SIBO, I always recommend the test unless I know the client and I know their history. But yeah, there's a test that your doctor can order for you. And if you've had issues with IBS, likely it can be SIBO. Yeah.
And I guess, would a colon rectal doctor test for that, or would it have to be a gastroenterologist?
Yeah, or gastroenterologist. Most insurances don't cover that, so they have to go to a special lab, right? We live in them, right? Or see what the hydrogen test and methane.
Yeah, but we are doing more tests now than we have in the past for different things.
We have Genesis now, that's covered by most insurances.
Yeah,
Do you do that here?
Yeah, we do that.
yeah.
Yeah. So the testing has become more common now. Hopefully insurance will start paying for it. Yeah.
Do you see children, Sarah?
The youngest client that I've had is 8. But as I said, the reason that I got into this field was because of my own child. I was in dental school actually studying to become a dentist. So the reason that I got into this field was because of my own child. Yeah.
I was in the school setting for many years, and I had a lot of children with autism.
Yeah.
And I started with them when they were 3 years old. Before we heard about everything we talked about tonight, right?
Yeah.
But there was always the gut issues and the feeding issues.
Absolutely.
Whew, we've come a long ways.
Yeah,
But,
but sadly not far enough.
yeah.
Because still I see a lot of kids on a ton of medication, and the medication have so many side effects, and but addressing the root cause, I'm super passionate about this, because I'm like, just address the root cause. If you don't see any improvement, then go to medication, then go to surgery. I had a client through the practice that was thinking of surgery, and she said, she called me, and I put her on a specific diet and some supplements, and she was able to avoid surgery. So there's a lot that you can do yourself.
So if somebody wanted to go to you and possibly bring a child, is this your website that I can guide?
Yeah.
I still stay in touch with a lot of parents.
Yes.
And can they send you an email to the Help with Sarah?
Yeah, or they can just go on the calendar and make an appointment, or if they have a question, they can send me an email. Yeah.
So I was wondering if you would at all consider giving it.
Oh, absolutely.
to
That's
a group of.
absolutely. I'm very passionate about this subject and about special needs kids. Very passionate. So absolutely, it would be my honor. I would definitely do that.
I will let you know.
Yeah. But my son's diet was extremely limited in the beginning. Now he starts his morning with a smoothie of like 10 different vegetables and no sugar, and his diet is just, like, he never wore the mask during COVID, and he never got COVID. His immunity, and this is the guy that had 3 ear surgery by the time he was 3. Like, he was really sick. But your diet is really important. What you put in your body is very, very important. Yeah.
And starting
Absolutely.
so young is such a plus.
Yes. But starting at any age, you can just, there is always something. My oldest client is 87, and so there is always something that you can do to optimize your gut health. Yeah. So thank you everyone for coming, and it was great, and I hope you learned something new tonight. Thank you. Thank you.